stress. Let's talk about stress, because no one thinks of stress as something that's healthy for us. We all know it's bad for us. It's not healthy. We want to avoid stress. But the direct link between stress and heart health was actually something new to me. So, and you bring in stories from your younger days, from your childhood. I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm so stressed. And so let's talk about stress and heart health.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that the saying goes like stress kills, and it's very, very true. It's just that in our modern world, nobody really tells you how to deal with it. And stress is going to happen. It's part of life. You can't eliminate it, right? It's just going to happen. It's our ability to handle it, have an appropriate response, and go back to normal that's important. And we can get into a situation where it becomes too overwhelming for our stress response, and that's exactly what happened to me. It's one of the things that contributed to why I had a heart attack, because I was in a very stressful situation. And so there's a few things that can happen. One, there's plenty of evidence, plenty of research that shows that an acute stress drastically increases the amount of inflammation and risk of clotting. And so that's what the issue is, that clotting is what causes atherosclerosis, clotting on the lining of the artery. It's not an accumulation of cholesterol, but clotting on the lining of the artery that the body tries to repair, but also acute clots that can form, that are large enough that they can block an entire artery. That's what heart attacks are. Now, those atherosclerotic areas that narrow the artery can make that more likely to happen because their artery is narrowed. But it's the stress, or stress is one of the main factors that increases these clotting factors that encourage the body to form clots. Also, lack of or poor blood flow is also another issue there. So that's one issue with stress. The other issue is that it creates this imbalance in the autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system is just the system in our body that's perceiving our environment through our senses, almost subconsciously, and telling your body, giving your body signals as if to whether you're in a safe or threatening environment. If you're in a safe environment, your body gets a signal to sleep or digest or whatever, do those types of things, detoxify. Whereas if you're in a threatening situation, your body has a stress response. And the stress response is designed to get you away from that threat, or fight off and conquer that threat, or whatever, eliminate the threat to your life. And so the problem with modern society is that we're the only species, humans are the only species that can literally think their way into a stress response. And our big brains have served us very, very well as far as where we've gotten to in the world. But we've developed this higher level thinking that we can think ourselves into things. And so that could be, you see something stressful happen to somebody else, and there's no risk of it happening to you, or at least you have nothing in your environment that risk it happening to you, but you still fear that it happens to you. Or something stressful could happen to you. And instead of having that stress response and returning to homeostasis, you think about it the rest of the day or the rest of the week or the rest of the month, and we have all these perceived things from outside. I always think of like the dark web, all these ads for the dark web and how you're going to get caught, which may be a reality, but I think it creates this hyper fear. Or even COVID was a huge example of all this fear that was created, over this thing that's going to come get you, and fear of other people, and how they were a threat to you. It just created this fear. And so we think our way into these stress responses, and that creates this imbalance in our autonomic nervous system, and where it's not balanced signaling. Because we're supposed to be able to have a stress response, and it's supposed to be balanced out by a non-stress signal. It's always keeping itself in check. However, if we get into the states where we're chronically stressed about things, even if it's incorrectly stressed about things, like I said, we're overthinking, then we can get this state of like a surge of a stress response, and we don't get the lesser surge of a non-stress response balancing it out. And that can create a situation where we're always in this stress state, and our body has no time to do anything else. So you think about it like people with insomnia or digestive issues, or sexual dysfunction, like their body's never in a rest and digest state where you can do those things, because it's always stuck in this hyperactive stress state. And so that can cause a lot of issues, especially for the heart, because the heart is the organ that perceives our emotional state and relays that state to the brain. It's why we say things like, I love you with all my heart, or we gave it all our heart, or, you know, your heart's not in it. We have this very emotional connection to this organ because it is our sensory organ for our emotions. And there's actually more signals sent from the heart to the brain than the brain to the heart. And so, because it's relaying that emotional state, and then the brain reacts accordingly, you know, and there's actually, there's lots of nervous system signaling from the heart to the muscles of facial expression, because that's where we express our emotions. And so based on how our heart is feeling, our face is reflecting that. And so yeah, this balance in the autonomic nervous system, this state of emotion, it's not just driving the stress response, but it's also what creates coherence throughout the entire body. And coherence is just the state in which, if something is in coherence, it means that it's in a state where all the different aspects or parts of the living system, the living thing, are interconnected and communicating so that they're all doing what's best for the system as a whole. And so that's coherence. And the only organ that has a high enough electromagnetic field that can touch the entire body, every cell in the body, is the heart. The heart's electromagnetic field is 5,000 times stronger than the field of the brains. So our emotional state is what's driving this coherence of the entire body. And so if our emotional state is not being communicated well, or we're stuck in this imbalance in the autonomic nervous system, then that coherence can be interfered with, and maybe different aspects of the body are not receiving that coherent signal, and we can start to get this incoherence, and that is heavily associated with more chronic disease. And the way we measure coherence is heart rate variability. And if you look at the research with heart rate variability is literally an indicator, or poor heart rate variability, low heart rate variability is an indicator of or contributor to pretty much every chronic disease out there, because it's measuring this incoherence. The body can't link up and sync up and communicate as a whole. And so we get different tissues starting to act on their own accord, right? Rather than what's best for the whole. And so that's how the heart kind of relates to all these different things, which is why, like, studying the heart has taught me more about physiology in the body and how it actually works, than learning anything else anywhere. It's just like actually studying this organ. I think that, you know, there's a reason we say, like, it's at the heart of the matter, because I think that we understand that the heart is what's driving most of our physiology. And so we use that metaphor as like this, you know, this issue, this is the heart of the matter. We don't say this is the brain of the matter, you know, even though everybody says, oh, the brain's controlling everything. As well, we say it's the heart of the matter. Why do we say that? Because we know subconsciously that the heart is what's driving, or setting the tone for coherence and proper functioning of all physiology. And that's been shown in the literature that this is what's happening. So if this organ's off, it can affect the coherence of the entire body.
Yeah, it was fascinating to read that actually you compare humans to other mammals, and other mammals in a stressful situation, say if they're facing a predator or something, or, you know, in any stressful situation, they're stressed. And then once that situation has happened and gone and over, they completely turn off their stress signals. We humans don't do that, right? It just continues with us for years and years and years, quite often.
It can even turn up as a stored past trauma that haunts us the rest of our life if we don't process the stress and deal with it appropriately and have the correct body response. It can be something that literally stays with us for way too long. Whereas animals don't seem to have the level of thinking, and I'm sure that it may happen to them too, but not at the same level as us, because we have this level of thinking. We tend to overthink it or think our way into stress responses even when there's nothing threatening happening, whereas an animal only has it when the stress is happening. So it's interesting. And then once the stress is over, they shut down the stress response and they're back to homeostasis again, and we don't necessarily do that.